Hi everyone, welcome back to Dobby Books. I missed all of you last week. I was down with a bout of COVID. This is the second time I've had COVID. I think I had my first COVID incident 2 years ago when I had come back from a trip to New York. And wouldn't you know it, I got it again last week. So I'm feeling much better. I should be returning to my classes tomorrow. I'm just waiting to hear from the health office on campus to let me know that I've got the green light to go back. And I've managed to keep up with my assignments and my reading. So that's a good thing because I did not want to fall behind. I hope everyone was great last week. I hope everyone was healthy last week. I didn't realize how much I'd miss talking to all of you while I was gone. I was going a little stir crazy as soon as I think around day 4, I was starting to feel like, oh, I just need to do something here. And I couldn't leave the house. So I finally tested negative and I'm good and just a little bit of a lingering cough. So wonderful. I'm sleeping at night. Oh my gosh. The first, once the symptoms really kicked in, the first 2 days were so rough. And it was especially at night. I really couldn't get a good, restful night's sleep. Even when I took some NyQuil to kind of tone down the symptoms so I could get some rest, it still wasn't a great night's sleep. So amazing. I had nothing. And I'd get up in the morning with a splitting headache. Even my teeth hurt. Oh. So those are just the first 2 days, maybe a little bit of the third day. I am much better now. So yay. So first I want to talk about the book that I'm still reading, Becoming Madam Secretary. I was excited to start it when I started it, and I still am loving this book. The author does a beautiful job. I love how everything is just flowing along. We are now at the point, at the last recording, I told you that she was working in some of the slums of New York and working with the poor, etc. She was still single, and where I am at now, see my little bookmark, she is now married. She's been married. She has a young teenage daughter, and she is working. First, she was working for Al Smith, who is the governor of New York, and then she started working for Governor Roosevelt. He has just won the presidential election. I think that was 1932. And we're approaching that time when he is asking her to take on this new position in his presidency. So this has been a wonderful book. I would truly recommend it. It's just an enjoyable read, and what a great way to learn history and just get acquainted with everything. This is like history on the slide. You know, it's you enjoy the story so much, not really thinking about so much that what you're actually reading is a lot of history as well. So this is a fantastic book. I would highly recommend it. Now, I did manage to get some books. A couple of them had been mailed to me. I had ordered one. I completely forgot I ordered. I looked at it when I took it out of the package and thought to myself, when did I order this? It took me a while, but I remember now. So let me tell you, the first 2 books I got are from the same author. These I picked up today at Barnes & Noble, the first time I've been to Barnes & Noble in way too long. And they're both by a Guatemalan author, and it's appropriate because now in my combination history-English class, we are studying some Latin American history and reading the literature of that time. And currently we're in Guatemala. So we're studying the history of Guatemala and the wars and the politics and etc. And we're touching on some of the authors. And one of the authors mentioned was Miguel Ángel Asturias. And I thought to myself, you know what? I want to get some of this man's writings. And how wonderful, you know, you find about, like in books, we find out about another author, another book, from another book. And in this case for me, it just happened in school while studying history and whatever. I'm becoming acquainted with other authors, other histories. And I just love that. I just love the learning process. So here's the first book, Mr. President by Miguel Ángel Asturias. And it says on the back, in an unnamed country, an egomaniacal dictator schemes to dispose of a political adversary and maintain his grip on power. As tyranny takes hold, everyone is forced to choose between compromise and death. Inspired by life under the regime of President Manuel Estrada Cabrera of Guatemala, where it was banned for many years and infused with exuberant lyricism, Mayan symbolism, and Guatemalan vernacular, Nobel Prize winner Miguel Ángel Asturias' magnum opus is at once a surrealist masterpiece, a blade-sharp satire of totalitarianism, and a gripping portrait of psychological terror. And this really, truly, he's writing about Guatemala without naming names. If you know anything about Guatemalan history, you're going to look at, you're going to read that description that he's talking about this president, he's talking about this, pretty much everything that was going on in the 80s. Next one is by the same author. This is called Men of Maize. Isn't that a beautiful illustration? I love that. That is just mesmerizing. On the back of the book it says, deep in the mountain forests of Guatemala, a community of indigenous Mayans, the Men of Maize, serve as stewards to sacred corn crops. When profiteering outsiders encroach on their territory and threaten to abuse the fertile land, they enter a bloody struggle to protect their way of life. Blurring the lines between history and mythology, Nobel Prize winner Miguel Ángel Asturias' lush, dreamlike work offers a prescient warning against the loss of an ancestral wisdom and the environmental destruction set in motion by colonial oppression and capitalist greed. So the colonial oppression would simply be, when they were colonized by the Spanish, and the lands that they had always lived on and farmed and fed their families on and their communities was just simply taken from them because, these guys conquered them. And that has continued to be a very bloody struggle for the indigenous in Guatemala. And then, because the war in the 80s, over 200,000 people died in Guatemala during the 80s. It didn't end, I think, officially until 1996. That's a long time. And it's believed that of those 200,000 that were massacred, some 82% were the Mayan indigenous population. And the others were the Ladinos, which are those people in Guatemala who are a mix of Mayan and Spanish blood. And in Guatemala, those class systems still exist. So you have at the very bottom of the rung the indigenous, the Mayan, and then above them the Ladinos. There's the poor Ladinos. Then you have the rich ones, the landowners that have been owning the land generation after generation since the Spanish settled the land. And they will not, they are unwilling to work out something where the Mayans can have some land of their own. They can own free and clear. They would not have to submit to the feudal system, which is what the rich Ladinos prefer. They want to maintain that colonial system. And then you have the military who worked closely with the powerful Ladinos. And that whole mess, that's why in Guatemala today, even though it's post-war, it's very difficult to bring those military individuals who are guilty of crimes against humanity, to bring them to justice. The government simply will not cooperate to bring them to jail. It's been a very slow and painful process. There is a video that you can watch on YouTube if anybody's interested in watching this. It's pretty hard in some parts to watch, but I think it's important, and it's entitled "Finding Oscar." It's really covers the how and the why, and there's a really cool story in that too. So, next one. Let's see. I've got a receipt here. So where was I? I was at a local bookstore called the Open Book, where they have a lot of wonderful used copies of books. And this is called Open Borders. It intrigued me. It's a graphic novel. And the subtitle is The Science and Ethics of Immigration. That was a good topic. That's a current event topic. So I decided I'm going to get this. So let me flip, basically. But I think it's a good, what can I say? It's a good gentle way. It's a good entertaining way, however you want to put it, of learning about a contentious topic. It's a good idea that they presented this topic in this format. And I think that's what caught my eye. So this is by Brian Kaplan and Zach Weinersmith, and it is a second publication. It's really very nicely done with French flaps and everything. Very nice. Next one. This is the one that I didn't remember ordering. It's by Ned Blackhawk, and it's entitled The Rediscovery of America, Native Peoples and the Unmaking of U.S. History. It is a National Book Award winner. So I heard it from somewhere, and I suspect that perhaps I was either reading the books section in the Atlantic magazine or in the LA Times, but there was a book section I must have been reading, and that's how I found out about it, and that's when I ordered it. This is published by Yale University Press, and let's see if I can find you a little something of what this is about. Like, you know how I have my collection of American history, and I like to include all of American history in my collection. But let me read through the table of contents, so that'll give you an idea. There's the introduction, which I have not yet read. So part 1 covers Indians and empires, Indians and the Spanish borderlands, the native Northeast and the rise of British North America, the unpredictability of violence, Iroquois and New France to 1701, the native inland sea, the struggle for the heart of the continent, 1701 to 1755, settler uprising, the indigenous origins of the American Revolution, colonialism's constitution, the origins of federal Indian policy. And then part 2 deals with struggles for sovereignty, the deluge of settler colonialism, democracy and dispossession in the early republic, foreign policy formations, California, the Pacific and the borderlands, origin of the Monroe Doctrine, collapse and total war, the indigenous West and the U.S. Civil War, taking children and treaty lands, laws and federal power during the reservation era, excuse me, indigenous twilight at the dawn of the century, native activists and the myth of Indian disappearance, and the last chapter, from termination to self-determination, Native American sovereignty in the Cold War era. So this was a really comprehensive history. It does include some images. This one here, wow. This is several hundred students stand in front of their dormitories and classroom buildings in this 1892 photograph of the Carlisle Indian School student body. Where was this? 1870. Look at this. Native American children who look very much like not Native American children. So let me see if I could find another. Oh yeah, he goes some maps and stuff. But this is going to be fabulous to add to my American history collection, because getting a full story is always very important. Now, last one. This author, many of you will know, he is currently writing the very last book of a 5-book collection on the life of Lyndon Johnson, Robert Caro. And I am fascinated with this author's work habits and the methodology he follows as he does his research and he takes his notes and he organizes all his information. And there is a documentary that's, no, it's not that new. I think it was done in 2019. And I think it's called Working. There's a book of the same title written by the author Robert Caro that talks about his writing process. And I just find it fascinating. So I purchased the first of the books he wrote, which really brought his name to the fore. And I want to read it. It's a monster, but I will read it after the semester's over. And it's entitled The Power Broker, Robert Moses and the Fall of New York. This is published by Vintage Press, and it's got a great map, landscape, that shows you everything that Robert Moses had done in many parts of New York, because he's known as the man that basically built New York. And I just find this a fascinating topic, someone I never would have thought about. But I want to simply read Robert Caro's writing. You know, now he's got my attention, and I just want to learn more. Those are the books that I got. And Becoming Madam Secretary, I am still reading. I should be done by the end of the week. And that is it, everyone. Thank you for spending time with me. I'm glad I could get back to all of you, and I want you to all be healthy, stay healthy, and happy October. Bye-bye.